So
Sure.
we ended up at stage 9, paragraph page 711. Okay, and our last headword was verb and infinitive or ing newer type of lesson. Okay, so let's start from where our revision.
Mm.
Okay, here we go. First question. Okay, let me scroll up. Here we go. If a friend of yours wants to go to one cinema and you want to go to another, and you can't agree about which to go to, what do you do? If a friend of yours wants to go to one cinema and you want to go to another, and you can't agree about which to go to, what do you do? If a friend of mine
If a friend of
wants to
mine
go to
wants
one
to
cinema
go to one
and I
cinema
want to go
and I want to
to
go
another,
to
and we
another,
can't agree
and we can't
about
agree
which to go to,
about which to go to,
we
we pick up another plan. The
or
third one.
we play golf instead. Right? Okay, thanks.
That's right.
Do you agree that life was better in the past than it is today? Do you agree that life was better in the past than it is today? Yes or no?
No, I don't agree
That
that
life was better in the
life was
past
better in the
than
past
it is today.
than it is today.
Would you agree to do an extra 3 hours of English today? Would you agree to do an extra 3 hours of English today? Yes or no?
No, I
I'm
wouldn't agree to do
an extra three
an
hours
extra
of
three
English today.
hours of English today.
Would you agree to a plan that might get you into trouble with the police? Would you agree to a plan that might get you into trouble with the police? Yes or no?
No, I wouldn't agree to a plan
That might get me
that
into
might get me
trouble with the
into trouble
police.
with the police.
Ragged, when you don't agree with other people, what do you do? When you don't agree with other people, what do you do? When I don't agree
When I
with
don't
other
agree,
people,
people,
I
I'd try to have an opportunity to discuss it.
with them. Very good. Okay. What do you think ought to be done with drivers who don't take care whilst driving and consequently run people over? What do you think ought to be done with drivers who don't take care whilst driving and consequently run people over? I think that
I think
drivers
that
who
drivers
don't take
who
care
don't
whilst
take care
driving
while
and
driving
consequently
and
run people
consequently
over
run people
ought to
over
be
are to be punished, fined, or even arrested.
very good. Would when you were a child, would you who took care of you when you were ill? When you were a child, who took care of you when you were ill? When I was a child,
When I was a
my
child, my mother
took
took
care
care
of
of
me
me
when I was ill.
when I was ill.
If you went for a dinner at a friend's house but didn't care much for the food, would you still tell them it was good? If you went for dinner at a friend's house but didn't care much for the food, would you still tell them it was good? Yes or no?
Yes,
If I
if
went
I
for
went
dinner
went for dinner
at a friend's house
at a
but
friend's
didn't care
house,
much
but
for the
didn't
food,
care much for the
I'd
food,
still tell them it
I
was good.
tell them it's good.
Very good. Okay, what does the expression I dare say you're right mean? What does the expression I dare say you're right mean? The expression
The
I dare
expression
say you're right mean,
I
I dare
dare
say you're right
say
mean,
you are right
I
mean.
think you're probably right.
I think you're probably right.
Very good. What kind of jobs would you say require the most daring? What kind of jobs would you say require the most daring? I'd say the
I'd
kind of
say the
jobs
kind of
which
jobs
required the
which
most
require
daring
the most
would be
daring will be a doctor.
very good. In dry countries, do people try to conserve water as much as possible? In dry countries, do people try to conserve water as much as possible? Yes, in dry
Yes, in
countries,
dry
people
countries,
try to
people
conserve
try to
water
conserve
as much
water
as
as
possible.
much as possible.
When you eventually finish studying English, do you think you'll be eager to start learning another language immediately? When you eventually finish studying English, do you think you'll be eager to start learning another language immediately? Yes or no?
Yes,
When I
when
eventually
I
finish
eventually
studying
finish
English,
studying
I think
English,
I'll be
I
eager
think I'll
to
be
start
eager
learning
to start
another
learning
language
another
immediately.
language immediately.
Why do we rub our hands together in cold weather? Why do we rub our hands together in cold weather? We rub our
We
hands
rub our hands
together in
together
cold weather
in
because
cold
it makes
weather
them
because it
warmer.
makes them warmer.
How can we rub out a pencil mark on a piece of paper? How can we rub out a pencil mark on a piece of paper? We can rub out
We
a
can rub
pencil
out
mark
a
on a
pencil
piece of
mark on a
paper
piece of
by using
paper
a rubber.
by using a rubber.
Very good. Where does your window face onto? Where does your window face onto? My window.
My
faces
windows
onto.
faces onto the street.
Very good. If you found yourself face to face with a killer with a knife in his hand, what did you do? If you found yourself face to face with a killer with a knife in his hand, what did you do? If I found
If I
myself
found
face to
myself
face with a
face to
killer
face with
with
a
a knife
killer
in his
with a
hand,
knife in his
I'd.
hands, I'd run away as fast as I can.
Very good. Do all religions in the world have a God? Do all religions in the world have a God? No, not all
No,
religions
not
in the
all
world have a
religions in the
God.
world have a god.
Wait, what can the word thus mean? What can the word thus mean? The word thus
The
can
word
mean
does can
therefore
mean
or in this
therefore
way.
or in this way.
Very good. Give me an example of each. Give me an example of each, please. He is ill and
Is
thus
ill
will
and
not be
thus
able
will not
to
be able
attend the meeting.
to attend the
The
meeting.
mother cut the
The mother
sandwich
cut
into
the
small
sandwich
pieces,
into small
thus
pieces,
making it easier
thus making it
for her
easier
young son to
for
eat.
her young son to eat.
Greg, if the cost of living suddenly rose and you needed to economize, what changes would you make in your life? If the cost of living suddenly rose and you needed to economize, what changes would you make in your life? If the cost of living
Is the cost
suddenly
of living
rose
suddenly
and
rose
I
and
needed
I
to
needed
economize,
to economize?
I'd.
I'd work for extra jobs to make more money.
Very good. Does my job involve correcting your mistakes? Does my job involve correcting your mistakes? Yes, your job
Yes, your
involves
job
correcting my
involves
mistakes.
correcting my
Have
mistakes.
you ever been involved in organizing a surprise party for a friend or family member? Have you ever been involved in organizing a surprise party for a friend or family member? Yes or no?
No, I've
I'm
never been
involved
involved
in
in
organizing a
organizing
surprise party
a surprise
for a
party
friend or
for a
family
friend
member.
or family member.
Right? Do innocent people ever get attacked in the streets in your hometown? Do innocent people ever get attacked in the streets of your hometown? Yes or no?
No,
Innocent people
innocent
never get
people
attacked
never get
in the
attacked
streets of
in
my
the street
hometown.
of my hometown.
Very good. What's another word for hardly? What's another word for hardly? Another word for
As a word
hardly is
for hardly
scarcely.
is scarcely.
Give me an example. Give me an example, please. He scarcely knew
He
anyone
scarcely
at the
knew
party,
anyone at the
so he
party,
went home early.
so he went home early.
Very good. What do I mean if I say I have scarcely any money? What do I mean if I say that I have scarcely any money? If you say
If
that
you
you
say
have
that
scarcely
you have
any money,
scarcely any
you
money,
mean that
you
you
mean
have
that
almost
you
no
have
money.
almost no money.
Very good. Why does food become scarce in wartime? Why does food become scarce in wartime? Food becomes scarce
Food
in
becomes
wartime
scarce in
because
wartime
there aren't enough
because there
people
aren't enough
to work on
people
the
who
farms
work on the
or in the
farms
factories.
or in the factories.
Greg, do you think it's fair to judge people on first impressions? Do you think it's fair to judge people on first impressions? Yes or no?
No, I
I,
don't think it's
it's fair
fair
to judge people
to
on
judge
first
people
impressions.
on first impressions.
If you held a dinner party and served food that had been cooked in a microwave, would it make a good impression on your guest? If you held a dinner party and served food that had been cooked in a microwave, would it make a good impression on your guest? No. If I
No,
held a
if
dinner
I
party
held a dinner
and served
party
food
and
that
served
had been
food
cooked
that
in a
had been cooked
microwave,
in the
it
microwave,
wouldn't make a
it
good
didn't make
impression
a
on
good
my guest.
impression on my guest.
Greg, what does a dog do with a bone? What does a dog do with a bone? A dog
A
buries a
dog
bone
up buries a
in
bone
the ground.
in the ground.
What is a cemetery? What is a cemetery? A cemetery
A
is a
cemetery
place where
is a
people
place
are
where
buried
people are
when they
buried
die.
when they died.
Greg, what angers you more than anything else? What angers you more than anything else?
Mm, annoying supervisor, annoying boss.
Angers me more than
Angers me
anything
most
else.
more than anything else.
Very good. Does it anger you when an airline makes an additional charge for luggage? Does it anger you when an airline makes an additional charge for luggage? Yes or no?
No,
It doesn't anger
it
me
doesn't anger
when an
me
airline
when an
makes an
airline
additional
makes
charge
an
for
additional charge
luggage.
for luggage.
Weged, what do you think is the best way to insult a person? What do you think is the best way to insult a person? I think the best
I
way
think the
to
best
insult
way
a
to
person
insult a
is to
person
say bad
is
things
to
about
say
him.
bad things about him.
If a foreign person said something negative to you about your country, would you consider it an insult? If a foreign person said something to you about your country, would you consider it an insult? Yes or no? If
Yes.
a foreign
If
person
a foreign
said
person
something negative to
said
me
to me
about my country,
about my
I'd
country,
consider it an insult.
I consider it insult.
An insult.
Insult.
Very good. One more. Yes. If a foreign
Yes.
person
If a foreign
said
person
something negative to
says
me
something negative to
about
me
my country,
about my
I'd
country,
consider it
I
an
consider
insult.
it an insult.
Very good. What does the idiom for heaven's sake mean? What does the idiom for heaven's sake mean? The idiom
The
for
idiom
heaven's sake
for
means
heaven's sake
a
means
very strong form
very strong
of
pull
please.
or please.
Give me an example. Give me an example, please. For heaven's sake.
For
Don't
heaven's
do
sake,
that again,
don't do that
or I'll
again,
be very angry.
or I'll be very angry.
Very good. In English, if a verb is followed immediately by another verb, what form must the second verb be? In English, if a verb is followed immediately by another verb, what form must the second verb be? In English,
In
if a verb
English,
is
if a
followed
verb is
immediately
followed
by another
immediately
verb,
by
the
another
second
verb,
verb
the
must
second
be
verb
either an
must be
infinitive
either an
or a
infinitive
gerund.
or a gerund.
Very good. Tell me some verbs that are followed by an infinitive. Tell me some verbs that are followed by an infinitive, please. Some verbs that
Some
are
verbs
followed
that are
by
followed
an infinitive
by
are
an infinitive are
ask, agree,
ask,
refuse,
agree,
and manage.
refuse, and manage.
Tell me some verbs that are followed by a gerund. Tell me some verbs that are followed by a gerund, please. Some verbs
Some
that are
verbs
followed
that
by
are
a gerund
followed by
are
a gerund are
deny, avoid,
deny,
practice,
avoid,
and miss.
practice, and miss.
Is the verb promise followed by an infinitive or a gerund? Is the verb promise followed by an infinitive or a gerund? The verb promise
The verb
is
promise
followed by
is
an
followed
infinitive.
by an infinitive.
Give me an example. Give me an example, please. He promised to
He
try
promised
harder
to
next time.
try harder next time.
Is the verb consider followed by an infinitive or a gerund? Is the verb consider followed by an infinitive or a gerund? The verb consider
The verb
is
consider
followed by a
is
gerund.
followed by a gerund.
Give me an example. Give me an example, please. You should consider
You
buying
should
a new
consider
car.
buying a new car.
Very good. And that's the end of our revision. Let's have new word. Very good. Okay, repeat. Afraid of.
Afraid of,
Afraid that.
afraid that,
Afraid to.
afraid to
Crash.
crash.
Very good. Okay, listen. Afraid of is usually followed by a noun or a gerund. For example, she's afraid of the dark. Noun. I'm afraid of seeing ghosts. The gerund. Afraid that is usually followed by a clause. For example, I'm afraid that I'm going to lose my job. Or I'm afraid that she'll leave me. Afraid to is usually followed by a verb. For example, I'm afraid to swim. I'm afraid to walk. Crash can be a verb and a noun. Crash as a verb means to have an accident in a car, plane, etc. For example, my car crashed into another car. Crash as a noun means an accident involving vehicle, usually a serious one in which the vehicle is damaged or someone is hurt. For example, a train crash or a plane crash. Let's practice. Why do you suppose some people, especially children, are afraid of the dark? Why do you suppose some people, especially children, are afraid of the dark? I suppose some
I
people,
suppose some
especially
people,
children,
especially
are
children,
afraid of the
are
dark
afraid of the
because
dark
they imagine
because
things
they imagine
that are
things
not there.
that are not there.
Wait, why are some people more afraid that they might get killed if they travel by plane than by other means of transport? Why are some people more afraid that they might get killed if they travel by plane than by other means of transport? Some people are
Some
more
people
afraid
are more
that they
afraid
might get
that
killed
they might get
if
killed
they travel by
if they
plane
travel by
than
plane
by other
than
means
by
of
other means
transport
of
because
transport
a plane crash
because a plane
is front
crash
page news.
is front page news.
Very good. Okay, next listen. We can also use afraid for an apology for asking sorry. For example, a shopper might say to a customer, I'm afraid we haven't got the size you want, sir. Okay, let's practice. Give me an example of the word afraid used in an apology. Give me an example of the word afraid used in an apology. I'm afraid I
I'm
can't help
afraid
you.
I can't help you.
Very good. Next, repeat. Whiskers,
Whiskers,
gap,
gap,
fence,
fence,
hedge.
hedge.
Very good. Okay, listen. Gap is a noun. For example, there's a gap between my fingers, like a space gap. There's a gap between me and the wall. Fence is a noun. For example, we put a fence around our garden or yard to keep animals from entering. Fences are usually made of wood. Gates are made of metal. Hedge is a noun. It is a row of small trees or plants that are planted close to each other that shows where an area ends and another one begins, like a boundary. Whiskers is a noun. It means a long stiff hair growing on the face of cat, mouse, or other mammals. A cat's whiskers are more or less the same width as its body. This means that when it goes hunting for mice and birds, it can use its whiskers to measure the width of the gap in a fence or a hedge to see if it is possible to get through the gap without using force and making a lot of noise. Let's practice. For what purpose does a cat use its whiskers? For what purpose does a cat use its whiskers? A cat uses
A
its
cat uses
whiskers
its
to
whiskers
measure the width of a gap,
to mesh
to measure
to
the width
measure the width
of a gap in a
of a
fence
gap in a
or
fence
a hedge
or a
to
hedge
see if
to
it is
see
possible
if it is
to go
possible
through the gap
to go through the
without
gap
using force
without using
and
force
making a lot of noise.
and making a lot of noise.
Very good. Do you think it's a good idea for a student to have a gap year between finishing school and starting university? Do you think it's a good idea for students to have a gap year between finishing school and starting university? Yes or no?
No, I
Uh,
don't think it's a
It's
good idea
for students to
for
have a gap
students to
year
have a gap
between
year
finishing school
between finishing
and starting
school and
university.
starting university
Why? Why do you think so? Because
because students might be totally lazy.
that's correct.
Mm.
Next, do we have to mind the gap between the train and the edge of the platform at some stations? Do we have to mind the gap of the train and the edge of the platform at some stations? Yes, we have to
Yes,
mind the
we
gap
have to mind the
between the
gap
train and
between the
the edge
train
of the
and the
platform
edge of the
at some
platform
stations.
at some stations.
Very good. Next, repeat. Hall,
Hall,
entrance,
entrance,
town hall.
town hall,
Very good. Okay, listen. Entrance is a noun. It is something by which you can enter a building or place. A hall means a large room. For example, a large house may have an entrance hall, and schools have dining halls. A town hall is a large building that is used for local government and public meetings. Let's practice. What's a hall? What's a hall? A hall is a
a
large
hall
room.
is a large room.
Give me some examples of different types of hall. Give me some examples of different types of hall, please. Entrance hall, town
Entrance
hall,
hall,
etc.
town hall, etc.
What's a town hall? What's a town hall? A town hall
A
is
town
a large
hall
building
is a large
that is
building
used
that is
for local
used
government
for local
and
government
public meetings.
and public meetings.
Very good. Okay, next repeat. Pool,
Who
liquid,
cricket,
indoor,
indoor,
outdoor,
outdoor,
outdoors,
outdoors,
out of doors.
outdoors.
Very good. Okay, but we stop there for today. Let's move on to reading.
Reading.
Okay, very good. So our reading ended at stage 8, page 687. Last headword was lazy. Okay, so start with
Hmm.
a question. What do I mean if I say the workers were idle?
I say
687.
687. Okay, yeah. What
Mhm,
do I mean if I say the workers were idle because machines had broken down? If you say the workers were idle because machines had broken down, you mean they were not doing anything because the machines had broken down.
mhm,
Play, sing. When was the last time you went to see a play at the theater? The last time I went to see a play at the theater was 3 years ago.
mhm,
Why do we always remember certain scenes in the film better than we remember others? We always remember certain scenes in the film better than we remember others because they are very emotional or full of action.
mhm,
Verse, chorus. Are Shakespeare's plays written mainly in verse? Yes, Shakespeare's plays are written mainly in verse. What do we call a part of a song that is repeated more than once, a verse or a chorus? We call a part of a song that is repeated more than once a chorus. Pray, prayer. How do people pray, and what do they usually say in their prayers? People often pray with their eyes closed, and they usually ask for something in their prayers.
Mhm.
Combine. Tell me the name of a job that you think combines work and pleasure. The name of a job that I think combines work and pleasure is. Oh, tell me the Prime Minister.
Mhm.
What does idiom go in one ear and out the other mean? The idiom go in one ear and out the other mean be hard, but then immediately forgotten. Give me an example, please. I've told my son 100 times not to go out without his coat on, but it goes in one ear and out the other. Extend as far as. How far does the road outside this window extend? The road outside this window extends as far as 100 meters.
Mhm.
Extend your arms towards the ceiling, please. What are you doing? I'm extending my arms towards the ceiling.
Very good.
Future clause.
Future time clauses.
Future time clauses. And shall I read aloud everything?
I know. Just go to 691.
691. Okay, cool. Oh, okay. Tell me the difference between these two sentences. When she writes a letter, she will drink a coffee, and when she has written the letter, she will drink a coffee. The difference between those two sentences is that when she writes the letter and she will drink a coffee means that it is possible that the two actions will happen at the same time or one after the other. Whereas when she has written the letter, she will drink a coffee means that she will write first and then after that drink.
Okay,
Try.
very good.